Hello everyone. So we are starting with the fifth module. Uh, so in the fifth and sixth module, we'll be dealing with the various characteristics and aspects of mechanical vibrations. And hope you have gone through the introduction video which I had shared with you all. If not, please go through that. Otherwise, you'll not be able to follow certain things which we have discussed in this video. So kindly go through that introduction video where simple harmonic motion, different types of vibration, etc. are discussed, and then come to this video. So in this session, we'll be discussing about just a few aspects of vibration, and then we'll go to the free and damped vibration of single degree of freedom systems. So just to refresh, vibration is actually a motion which repeats itself after a regular interval of time. We are already aware about vibration and basic concepts of vibration. So the basic simple examples of vibration motions are actually simple pendulum, strings of instruments, etc. So any motion which repeats itself after a regular interval of time, that is what we call it as vibration. And why is this important to study vibration? So in case of mechanical systems, one of the most important problems which we face is actually vibration. So it's actually kind of a necessary evil in case of mechanical systems. It can be caused by various unbalanced forces or some kind of design issues or some or whatever things. But it's actually in most of the cases vibration is an evil which needs to be sorted out and prevented. So we have to study about vibration. That is why this is important here. So basic idea of vibration is that it's a motion which repeats itself. Okay. Now basics parts of a vibrating system. So while analyzing vibration, what we are doing is we'll be converting a physical system into a mathematical model so that we can analyze it using mathematical equations, and by solving those equations we'll be able to identify the responses and the effects of that vibration, or the effects of the forces, or various mode shapes, etc. So while converting a physical system into a mechanical system, essentially it should have three components. Before coming to that, in the introduction section itself, when the simple pendulum was discussed, it was said in the system in the topic that basically in a vibrating system there are two kinds of energies associated. One is the kinetic energy and second one is the potential energy. Okay, so kinetic energy and potential energy. In the absence of friction or some kind of diminishing energy or damping energy, these two energies will be transmitted from one form to other. That is, kinetic energy will be transformed to potential energy, and potential energy will be transformed to kinetic energy. That is what actually happens in a vibrating system. So keeping that in mind, we need three basic components to design or model a physical system into a mathematical model. First one is a spring. Spring element is actually a component which is used to store potential energy. Okay, as in case of a simple pendulum, the string of the simple pendulum, it is actually the element which possesses the elasticity or that stiffness component. Second one is mass. Mass is the entity which stores kinetic energy. Okay, it also represents inertia and it stores kinetic energy. So that is mass. So in case of a simple pendulum, the bob is a mass which we are concerned about, and it stores the kinetic energy by virtue of its velocity. Okay. The third one is damper. Damper is something which arrests the vibration or diminishes the amplitude of vibration. In case of a simple pendulum, air friction acts as a damper. But in mechanical systems, we can use different kinds of external damping systems which can diminish the amplitude. So these are the three basic systems or basic components of a vibrating system. Whenever we are modeling a vibrating system, it will have at least two of these three components. Basically, it will have a component which will store potential energy, and it will have a component which will store kinetic energy, and something which diminishes the energy. So these three components are mandatory. The figure shows a basic spring mass system. You can see that a mass is attached with a spring and a damper. So mass which stores kinetic energy, or it's a component of inertia, spring which represents the elasticity or the stiffness component, and finally the damper. So these are the three components which are used to represent a vibrating system. Now the next important term which we are going to handle is number of degrees of freedom. You have already learned about degrees of freedom in the previous semesters, but just for this point of view, degrees of freedom is actually the number of independent coordinates which are used to specify the position of a system. Okay, the minimum number of independent coordinates which are required to specify the position of a system, that is called degrees of freedom. So if you need only one component, only one constant is required to specify the position of a particular system, it can be termed as a single degree of freedom system. If you need two components to specify the position of a system, then then it is called a 2 degree of freedom system, and it goes on 3 degree of freedom system, and finally it becomes multi degrees of freedom system. More than 2, it will become almost multi degrees of freedom system, 2 and more than 2. So in the figure it is shown a simple pendulum is shown. So how do we know if it is a single degree of freedom system? See, I am taking the bob of the simple pendulum. So it's actually a planar motion. Okay, in this planar motion you need two components, x and y, to specify the position of that particular bob. But in this particular, so it's actually x component is also needed, y component is also needed in order to specify the position of the bob, which is shown at 1. Okay, and in that case we need two components, x and y, but there is a condition here. We know the length of the string. L is fixed. L is the length of the string and it is fixed, and in that condition theta is the angle from the position 2. Okay, it's the displacement, angular displacement of that particular string. If we know the length of the string and if we know theta, L is a constant, L is actually a component. Okay, it's a constant. Theta is only variable, and theta alone is sufficient to specify the position of M. Instead of x and y, we can also use theta. Theta as a single component is sufficient to represent the position of the bob of the bob. Okay, so x and y is actually dependent on theta. Okay, there is only one independent component. Theta is the only independent component. Even if we are specifying it with x and y coordinates, it will be dependent on theta and this length L. So this is actually a single degree of freedom system. Please be sure that, please understand that a system where you can define the components or its motion can be defined. Now, if not the position, then the motion. The motion you should be able to represent the motion using a single component. Now we will go through a few examples of basic vibration system. The first one, the top 3 figures show examples of a single degree of freedom system. In case of the first one, it's a slider crank mechanism with a spring. Okay, a slider crank mechanism with a spring, and theta as shown in figure. Theta alone, or the rotation of the crank, can actually define the motion of all the other components, if be it the slider, be it the connecting rod, anything. Theta alone of the crank can define the motion of all the other components at all the other points of that particular system. So that is a single degree of freedom system. In the second figure, figure B, it's a spring mass system shown. So a mass M is given, a spring is given with stiffness K, and it's shown that the mass is displaced at a distance of x. In that case, x alone can define, x is the displacement of the mass M, it alone can define the position or motion of that particular mass. So that is also a single degree of freedom system. Similarly, the third figure is a torsional system. So it's a shaft, at the end there is a disc. If we are rotating that disc, okay, we can define the motion of that disc using, or that shaft using, that angle theta alone. So theta is necessary, it's sufficient to define the motion of that particular body. In the second figure, it's a 2 degree, it shows 3 cases of 2 degrees of freedom systems. So in the first figure, it is also a spring mass system, but there are 2 springs and 2 masses. So the first mass, M1, is having a motion or a displacement x1. Similarly, M2, the second mass M2 is having a displacement x2. So in that particular system, x1 and x2 are required to define the motion of that particular system. X1 alone cannot define the motion of both the systems. X2 alone cannot define the motion of both the systems. So X1 is required as well as X2 is also required. Therefore, two components are needed, or two values are needed to define the motion. So that is a 2 degree of freedom system. Similarly, in the second figure, that is also a case of motion. A shaft is there and there are two discs on either side of the shaft. So theta 1 is the angular displacement of the first disc shown with the polar moment of inertia J1, and the second disc is having an angular displacement theta 2. So depending upon the material properties of the disc, the value of displacement of these discs will be different. That is, theta 1 will be different and theta 2 will be different. Okay, so these two values, theta 1 and theta 2, is required to define the motion of that particular system. Theta 1 alone or theta 2 alone is not sufficient. We need both the values to define the motion of that particular system. Now in the same case, it's figure C. There you can see a spring, a mass, and at the end of the mass there is a string, is a simple pendulum. So there is a mass m. So the mass m has a displacement x. The displacement of mass m is defined using the distance x. Now we also have a simple pendulum, and the motion of that particular simple pendulum is represented using the angle theta. Okay, so x and theta both are required to completely define the motion of that system. Now in the next figure, the 3 degree of freedom system, figure 1.13, 3 degree of freedom system, as we have explained, there are 3 masses given. So each of the masses are having 3 different displacements, x1, x2 and x3. So they define the motion of these 3 masses individually. Okay, and finally the last one is a cantilever beam. In case of cantilever beams, you can consider a beam to have, we are assuming that the beams are made up of n number of small finite masses. Okay, it's not a discrete system, it's a continuous system. Okay, there are n number of finite masses. These dots given in the beam, shown in the beam, actually represents individual masses. So each of these masses will be having different displacements. For the first case it is shown as x2, x1, second case it is x2, third case it is x3, and it goes on. So in a beam, depending upon the way of the mass it is we are allocating, the displacements will also be different. So there are n number of masses and n number of displacements. So a beam can be considered as a system with infinite number of degrees of freedom. Okay, there will be infinite degrees of freedom in that particular case. Next, so to sum up, this is what actually we are supposed to do when we have an idea about vibration and analysis. So there is a motorcycle and there is a rider. So while analyzing this mathematically, we can convert the figure A, the system A. A rider is shown, the strut is shown, tire, wheel, everything is shown. So we can convert this physical system into a mathematical system so as to analyze its response. So in figure B it is shown M equivalent, MEQ is given, KEQ is given, and CEQ is given. So MEQ represents actually the mass of the rider as well as the mass of the vehicle. So the masses of these two components are represented using the block MEQ, equivalent mass. Next one is KEQ. KEQ is actually the stiffness of the various components given in the figure. That is the stiffness of the strut, the stiffness of the tire, etc. All the elastic components. The elastic components stiffnesses are consolidated, and we are giving it as K equivalent. Next one is C equivalent. C is actually the damping coefficient. Damping coefficient of various struts and tires, etc., or the wheels, etc., will be considered, and we will be allocating that value as C equivalent. So the whole system of this man with a motorcycle can be converted into a system as shown in figure, with a mass, a spring, and a damper. More elaborate view is given in figure C. It is shown the mass mv plus mr. It is in the top, it is mv plus mr, that is the mass of the vehicle plus the mass of the rider. Okay, separately it is given. So both are correct, and first one is a more precise one, second one is more elaborate one. Second, and K is actually the stiffness of the strut, and damping CS is also the damping provided by the strut in both the cases, in the front tire and the back tire. And finally below that MW is actually the mass of the wheels, and KT shows the stiffness of the tires. So similarly you can model a physical system into a mathematical system as shown. Now we are moving on to free vibration analysis of single degree of freedom systems. As we said, single degree of freedom means we require only one there should only be one independent coordinate which can define the motion. That is single degree of freedom system. Then free vibration. Free vibration is actually a case where we do not exert continuous force. We'll be initially giving a force. A vibration will be caused by an initial force which is given to the system, and we'll be removing that force. And with the effect of that initial force, the body will be vibrating. Okay, that is a free vibrating system. But in case of a forced vibration system, force will be continuously given to the system. While in case of free vibration, an initial force is given and it is released. Okay, so that is the case here. So a spring mass system is shown. So this is the typical representation of a vibrating system, a spring and a mass. Okay, this is undamped system. Undamped system means there is no diminution of energy, or there is no presence of a damper. Only a spring and a mass is there. It is a free vibration of single degree of freedom system, and it is an undamped system. There is no damping at all. There is only a spring and a mass. Okay, now we'll analyze. So in order to find out how a spring mass system responds, or how an undamped free vibrating system responds, we need to have we need to find out the equations of motion of the system. How will you find out the equations of motion? So after converting the system into this kind of a mathematical model, we have to find out an equation, or we have to derive an equation such that we can learn the characteristics of that particular motion with the effect of that particular force. So that is what we are going to look next. So there are many number of methods by which you can find out the equations of motion. The first one is a Newton's method. Newton's method is also called equilibrium method. So we are finding out the equation of motion by considering the equilibrium of the given system. So as shown in the figure, in the first figure on the leftmost side you have a spring and a mass. Okay, the spring is attached to the top, and at the end of the spring, one end of the spring, a mass is attached. So in the absence of that mass, the spring's positions would have been as shown in the unstretched position. Okay, without the mass, the initial position of the spring is as shown as the unstretched position. Now when we are attaching a mass, the spring deflects a little bit. Okay, this deflection is shown as delta in the figure. When a mass is attached to the unstretched spring, it deflects a little bit and moves downward, and that deflection is shown as delta, which is called the static deflection. Okay, static deflection is given by delta. Now the system is in equilibrium. That is, a spring is attached, a mass is attached as the end of that spring, and now the spring has displaced to a distance delta. Okay, in this condition, the free body diagram of that particular mass is shown second. Mass M is there. Downward there is a force mg, and upward there is a force k delta. So what are these forces? Mg is the weight of the mass acting downward. M into g. G is the acceleration due to gravity, and the weight is acting downward. This particular mass is having a value m, and the weight mg is acting downwards. Now what is k delta? K delta is actually the force, the spring force, or the restoring force which is acting on the spring. So K is the stiffness of the spring. So what is the stiffness of a spring? Stiffness is a basic criterion of a spring, which is defined as the amount of force required to cause unit deflection on the spring. So if K is the stiffness of the spring and delta is the deflection of the spring, then K delta is the restoring force, or the spring force acting in this case. So if mg is acting downward, then K delta will be acting upward. Okay, so now this system is in equilibrium. This is in static equilibrium. There is no other accelerating forces or external forces applied on the system. Only a spring is attached to a mass is attached to a spring, and it has reached equilibrium. The spring has displaced to a distance delta, which is called the static deflection, and mg is acting downward and k delta is acting upward. That is the first case. And for static equilibrium we have written as W is equal to mg, which is equal to k delta, because in order to maintain equilibrium the two forces should be equal. Okay, then only the system will be, the net force should be equal to 0. So the upward force and the downward force should be equal to each other. Now the third figure shows a case where you can see a displacement x which is directing downward. This means that the spring mass system which was in equilibrium is displaced by a distance x in the downward direction. That is, we are applying a force to the mass, and from the static equilibrium position the mass displaces downward in the x direction. Okay, the value of displacement is x, the displacement is towards the downward direction. So you can see that the static equilibrium position is shown, and the position of the mass is coming downward from the static equilibrium position. Now, so in this case, so we are applying a force and we are releasing that force. So the spring mass system starts oscillating. The spring will be mass will be moving upward and downward depending upon the amount of force or the amount of displacement it has taken. Now in that case, what is the equilibrium condition? That is shown as the last figure. So the mass is shown, mg is the weight acting downward, upward. Now the spring force is now shown as k into delta plus x. Okay, k into delta plus x. So as a result of this externally applied force which is acting in the downward direction, there is a displacement in the downward direction which is given as x. So the net deflection of the particular spring is delta plus x. Okay, therefore the spring force will be k into delta plus x, because initially there is a static deflection delta. Now we are giving an additional external deflection x. So the net spring force will be equal to k into delta plus x acting in the upward direction. Okay. And in the free body diagram in the rightmost figure, you can see that x dot is shown in the downward direction. X dot is actually the velocity corresponding to the displacement x. dx by dt is represented as x dot, and d square x by dt square, that is the acceleration, it is represented as x double dot. It is seen that both these are acting in the downward direction because we are applying the force in the downward direction. Okay. That is so the spring force is k into delta plus x, and the inertia. Now we know that the applied force is in the downward direction, that is x is in the downward direction, correspondingly we have the applied force in the downward direction. Now the body will be experiencing an inertia force. We know that the inertia force in all cases will be equal in magnitude to the applied force, but it will be in the opposite direction. That is, if we are applying a force in the downward direction, the body will be experiencing an inertia force which is in the opposite direction with the same magnitude. So the mass m will be experiencing an inertia force of magnitude m into x double dot, that is equal to m into a, okay, which is in the opposite direction of the applied force, that is the upward direction. So considering the equilibrium equation, we have mg in the downward direction, that is a mass acting in the downward direction, the spring force k into delta plus x in the upward direction, also the inertia force is in the upward direction. This is because the applied force is in the downward direction. We are applying a force in the downward direction, therefore the inertia force will be in the upward direction. Expanding the equation, we will get mg equal to k delta plus kx plus mx double dot. Okay. So writing the equilibrium equation, the first case will be mg is in the downward direction, all the other forces are in the upward direction. So mg will be equal to k into delta plus x. K into delta plus x is actually the spring force. Mx double dot is the inertia force. Now I am expanding that, mg equal to k into delta plus kx plus mx double dot. Now we have already written that for static equilibrium, mg is equal to k delta. So these two entities will be cancelling each other, and we'll get the equation will be mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. This equation is known as the equation of motion, or the governing equation for a single degree of freedom system which is undamped. Okay, this is the equation of motion. This is a very important equation. Mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. M is the mass, k is the stiffness of the spring, x is the displacement, and x double dot is the acceleration. Okay, and this is the equation of motion. That is, if we are dividing this by m, x double dot plus k by m into x will be equal to 0. If so, k by m is actually equal to, if we can assign that the value of k by m equal to omega n square, where omega n is called the natural frequency of the system and it is given by root of k by m. Okay, so we are dividing the basic equation mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. This is the equation of motion for a single degree of freedom system, of undamped single degree of freedom system, and dividing the whole by m, you'll be getting the equation of the form x double dot plus k by m into x is equal to 0. Taking the coefficient of x, the coefficient of x k by m can be written as omega n squared, such that omega n equal to root of k by m, and this is called the natural frequency of vibration. This is in radians per second. Okay, so that is the basic method. This is the first method. This is also called the Newton's method or the equilibrium method, and this is how you find out the equation of motion using equilibrium method. Now elaborating a little bit more, the equation mx double dot plus kx, as we have seen, x double dot plus k by m into x is equal to 0. It can be written in that way. Now substituting for k by m, as we had shown, x double dot plus omega n square x is equal to 0. Again expanding it, x double dot will be equal to minus omega n square x, which is actually the equation for simple harmonic motion. So this is simple harmonic motion because x double dot, this is acceleration. Acceleration is proportional to the displacement and it is in opposite direction of the displacement. Okay, so this is actually a simple harmonic motion. The acceleration is proportional to the displacement, and this mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. This is actually a homogeneous second order linear differential equation. Okay, and which will have two arbitrary constants. Now the solution will need two components. We can assign cos omega nt as well as sin omega nt. Both these will satisfy the equation, and the general solution of this particular equation mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0 will be equal to x is equal to a cos omega nt plus b sin omega nt, where a and b are arbitrary constants. Okay, so this is the basic concept. So we can see from the equation that it is a simple harmonic motion, and we know that it's a second degree equation. It's a differential equation, linear differential equation, and it's homogeneous, and the solution will have two arbitrary constants and the functions cos omega nt and sin omega nt. So that is all about equation of motion, finding the equation of motion using Newton's method or equilibrium method. Okay, and we can find out the equation of motion in many other methods. Second one is energy method. As we had discussed, this is actually an undamped system, and it's a single degree of freedom system. Undamped system means there is no diminution of energy. That is, there is no component which can reduce the energy. There is no friction or there is no damper. Nothing is there. Only conversion of kinetic energy to potential energy and the potential energy back to kinetic energy. Only that transfer is conversion is taking place. So this is actually a conservative system. Conservative system means there is no damping or there is no friction, there is no diminution of energy. In that case, the total energy of that system remains a constant. As you know, in case of a vibration system having a spring and a mass, there are two components of vibration. First one is kinetic energy. Two components of energy, that is kinetic energy and potential energy. Kinetic energy is stored in the mass by virtue of its velocity, while potential energy is stored in the spring by virtue of its elasticity or the stiffness. Okay. Now, how do we find out the equation of motion using energy method? As we know, the total energy of the system, kinetic energy plus potential energy, should be a constant. Okay, because this is a conservative system. Conservative system means there is no diminishing of energy. That is, there is no friction or there is no damping. Okay, so in that case kinetic energy plus potential energy will be equal to 0. So we know that the kinetic energy of a system, that is equal to half mv square, and v is represented as x dot in our case, therefore it is half mx dot square, and the potential energy will be taken as the average of force into the distance. So the maximum spring force is k into x. As we know, spring k is a stiffness coefficient and x is a displacement, therefore the spring force is kx, and we are taking the average value, therefore it will be 0 plus kx divided by 2, that is it will be equal to half kx square. And taking the total value, total kinetic energy plus potential energy will be equal to a constant, that is half mx dot square plus half kx square will be equal to a constant. Okay. That is d by dt of k plus p, that is kinetic energy plus potential energy, is equal to 0, and differentiating that value you will get d by dt of half mx dot square plus half kx square is equal to 0. Differentiating that you will get m into 2 into x dot, the differential of x dot is x double dot, and differential of x is x dot, 2x, equation will be like this, and on simplification you will again get mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. Okay. So the total kinetic energy plus potential energy is a constant, and its derivative, that is change in potential energy with respect to time, change in total energy with respect to time will be 0. Considering that aspect, we can find out that the equation of motion is mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. So this is also an important method where we can apply it in a lot of problems to find out the equation of motion and similarly the natural frequency of the system. So that's the energy method. The third method which we are going to use is Rayleigh method. Rayleigh method, as we said, we know that for a vibrating system, kinetic energy and potential energy are there. We are going to assume that the maximum value of kinetic energy is equal to the maximum value of potential energy in a case. Okay. Considering that, in that assumption, and assuming that the motion is simple harmonic motion, we are taking x is equal to a sine omega t. If x is the displacement at any time t, then its value is equal to a sine omega t. That is our assumption, where x is a is the maximum amplitude and x is the amplitude at any instant. Okay, so x is equal to a sine omega t, and the maximum value of x will be equal to a when sine omega t equal to 1. Similarly, x dot is equal to a omega n into cos omega n t, and maximum value of x dot will be equal to a omega n. So considering that, here also we are going to take the situation where the maximum value of kinetic energy is equal to the maximum value of potential energy. So the kinetic energy is equal to half mx dot square and potential energy is equal to half kx square. We need to equate the maximum values of these two things. So maximum value means m is a constant, k is a constant. The only component which is varying there is x. And the maximum value of x dot, as we have seen, is a omega n, and maximum value of x which we have seen is a. So substituting that in the equation, you will get it in this form. Cancelling the terms, you will have m omega n square is equal to k, that is equal to k by m equal to omega n square, and finally omega n equal to root of k by m, which we obtained in the initial case also. So that is the Rayleigh method. Okay, so in all the three methods, we will get the same equation and the same value for natural frequency. The concepts of each methods are different. In case of Newton's method, we are considering the equilibrium, and we are taking the concept that the net force acting on the body is 0. That is the inertia force, the weight, as well as the spring force. Combination of these forces will give you 0. So considering that aspect, you got we'll get mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. That is the equation of motion. In the second case, it's energy method. In case of the energy method, we are considering the aspect that the net energy of a system is a constant. So the change in energy will be 0, and we find out the values for kinetic energy and potential energy differentiated with respect to time. If you differentiate a constant, you will get 0. So finally, you will find out that the equations will be the same as what we found using Newton's method. And the third method is Rayleigh method. in Rayleigh method, the maximum kinetic energy is equal to maximum potential energy. Substituting the values of maximum amplitude and maximum velocity, and solving, you'll get that. You'll find out that omega n equal to root of k by m. So finally, that's all about free vibration of